Hello and welcome back. I wanted to do a short video on the unsung hero of the fleet, basically. The one I'm in right now. It gets used every day. If we're going on any long journeys, it gets used, apart from the caravan. And I don't really feature it much in the channel, and I was kind of wondering the day I've just been to drop off my son of why. Because it's one of the best cars, for me as a mechanic, that's been made in the last 20 years. A development of it, at least, anyway. Most of you will probably know what it is. For you who don't, I just want to give you a few simple facts, figures, basic stuff of why I think these are one of the best cars made in the last 20 years and what they like to live with. Because as you know, I've got one at work, which doesn't go on the road anymore. This used to be my car about 7 years ago, and I had it for quite a while. One of my customers had it. Then I had it again. Now my partner's had it for the last 4 years, I think. But it's like my car. We both obviously used it. So, what is it? Most of you obviously know what it is, but for those of you who don't, what is it? Nothing fantastic, but it is one of the most versatile, reliable cars, economical cars, cheap to run, you can probably buy, unless you're getting into the real cheap rubbish. It's the Astra H. A development of the Astra G. It's the Mark 5, but obviously you've seen my Mark 4 at home. This is exactly the same as a Mark 4. They didn't do a great deal underneath. What they basically did was just change the way they look. And let's face it, the Mark 4s are probably, reliably wise, my favourite, but the Mark 5s pip it a bit for looks, because I still think this is a private plate. It's a 2000, I think it's late 2007. It's a 57 plate, just before the changeover to 08. And this has a few things I'll go through if you're looking for a car. Now, for starters, these platforms are based on a lot of stuff. The Safieras, it's based on the same as the Safiera. So if it can hump around a big 7-seater MPV, it's nothing for one of these. Now, these are fantastic in van form, as you know, the Astra van. Then they do the combo van, which is a bigger van at the back, but it's got a coarser front end. Now, I do not know why Vauxhall did not use the combo based on the Astra. So have the Astra front end and then do the big ballooned back on it. I really don't understand why they didn't. If they had of, it would have been a fantastic van, probably one of the best vans. So the combo pips it for space, but it's based on the Corsa, which isn't so good. Yet the Astra van is only just one of these, but a van. It's just an Astra Estate with the back enclosed in, which really makes them a bit pointless, because you're better off just getting an estate, because you pay the cheaper car tax, road tax, you pay cheaper insurance because it's not a van, and you've also got 5 seats when you need it to be. And if you get the ones like these with the blacked out windows, then it's even better. So anyways, when did these start? These started about 1998, round about an R-Reg, the earliest ones you'll find. On the Mark 4s, bearing in mind this is a Mark 5, these started around 04. I think I've seen a very, very early 53 plate one once, but it's about an 04, and these went right on to about 2010, 2011 approximately. I think the Astra van carried on a little bit longer. I think those went up to about a 12. But anyways, there's a few things you need to watch out for. Any of them after 08 diesel ones, don't buy them. And I'll go through for why. Number one, this is the Z17 DTH. It's the Isuzu engine. I'll go into that in a minute when we open the bonnet. But they did 2 power outputs. They did an 80 brake horsepower and they did 100 brake horsepower. You're much better off going for the 100 brake, because the 80 ones are very, very lethargic. They're not very good. And basically the only difference is they've got a fixed vane turbo. This has got variable vane, variable geometry turbo, variable nozzle, whatever you want to call it. But there used to be a little telltale. Up until about, I think when they started on about, we'll just say 04 to about 57, this, up to about 08, there used to be the CDTI, used to be the red TI meant the 100, and the full silver meant the 80, but around about 2007, 2008, they did away with it, and they just all look the same. So this is the 100 brake, and it's just the silver. So don't get confused if you're going to look at a late one of these, and you look at it and you go, oh, it's just the 80 brake. It isn't. Check on the reg, because there will be. But the main way to know with these is if they've got you look on the engine code Z17 DTH, H meaning high pressure, I believe, is the 100 brake, and the other ones are Z17 DT L, which is low pressure, or some of them are just known as DT. But if it's got the H, it's the high-powered one. They're ones you want. They're not flying machines, but they don't have pull well for a 1700. And as you all know, dating back to the days of the Cavalier, these 1700 Isuzu engines are absolutely bulletproof. They've got a few issues, but I would say it's in my top, maybe my number 1 or 2 top best diesel engines ever made. But we'll get back to the car and why I think they're fantastic. Number 1, to say this is a 2007 car /8, it doesn't look its age at all, does it? I think if you get them in the right spec, first up, you want the design spec or elite. Try not to go any lower. Personally, the design spec is the second from the top of the range. The top of the range is the elite. And the only thing you're lacking with this car over an elite is a couple of things. Is number 1, full leather seats, which you get in the elite. But in the design, you get the half leather, which is here and there. Naturally, the heated seats, excuse me, daughters in the car, you've got the heated seats, which you haven't obviously got in this one, and cruise control, which, as you'll see, I've already fitted, which is a dead easy job on these. So really, you're better off just getting the design spec, because you pay a bit less for them, and that basically are the elite spec. You get everything on them. You get 4 electric windows. These are factory tinted windows. You get your rain sensing lights and wipers. You get your automatic dim mirror. You get all the mood lighting, the kind of ambient lighting, because underneath the mirror it shines down at night, and underneath all the little door handles it lights up. Very modern for its age. But this colour in particular, I love. I don't know what it's called. It's just a dark grey, and I think it just looks spot on. And again, the estate, if you're going to get one of these, a 3-door one, pointless. The 5-door ones, I don't really see the point, and I don't think the back ends look as good on the hatchbacks. I do think the estate has a much better looking back end. Let us know, leave a comment below. Do you think this looks like a modern, nice looking car for its age? Because I do. And the main reason I'm banging on about an estate, you get the roof bars as standard. I just personally think they look a lot better at the back than the hatches, 5-door hatches. But the main reason is this. There's not much you cannot fit in at the back of an Astra estate. The only thing is, this is the Mark 5. This is the only reason I rate the Mark 4, the silver one like I've got at the garage, better, because it comes straight down at the back. And you've got that full opening, where with these, they've gone more along the stylish route, which now I find all estate cars are starting to have the back ends crushed down like that angle, which means you don't have an estate. An estate, to me, is something that comes across and it's flat at the back, so you've got a nice big square, high load area. So that's only downside to the Astra Mark 5 to the Mark 4 is that slightly more slope, but it's not that bad. It's very, very mild before they started going stupid, like on the Mark 6. On the Mark 6 Astra, it was right over like that, which wasn't really good at all. But these are fantastic. I have fitted all sorts in this car. Full-size fridge freezers, you name it. You can fit a 6-foot dog cage in them with the seats down. There's a pram in, nice. And this is what I'm saying with the Jeep. You haven't got that length space, like, to get stuff in. I get that you can fit the 2 dogs in with this, obviously, to the side. Much better. You get the old boot buddy. These are fantastic, these things, to keep all the mess off the carpet area inside of them. Again, running Miller's diesel in them. Miller's fuel additive, always use that stuff, fantastic. But yeah, you've got your pull across load liner. I'm not going to touch that because the dogs keep trying to chew it. But yeah, it's just a fantastic one. And again, with it being the design spec, I've already said this, with the tinted windows, it's exactly what you want for the dogs and the kids in the summer and people just not being able to see them. So that's that. Definitely go design spec, definitely go estate spec, and definitely go for the 1.7 Isuzu. Mainly because they did 3 diesel engines in this shape of Astra. They did the 1.3, avoid that thing like the plague. It's Fiat, it's a full-bred Fiat engine. Terrible, timing chains, the rattle on, they've got no power. Awful, awful, awful. And the other one that they did was the 1.9 Fiat engine. Again, Fiat derived, 100% Fiat. They did the 1.9, 120 brake one and the 150 brake one. Again, avoid those things. They're terrible, especially when they're rammed under the bonnet of an Astra. They're a nightmare to work on. There's no space. And I'm going to get to this bit now, gearboxes. Now, this has got the F23 gearbox in. Easy way of telling, dead easy, but this is the F23 gearbox. This is exactly the same gearbox in this car as what's in a V6 Vectra, a 2.5 or a 2.6 V6 Vectra. It's in all of the big diesel, the 2 litre and the 2.2 diesel Vectras. So for a 1.7 diesel in an Astra, this gearbox is bulletproof. They are absolutely brilliant. And the simple way of knowing if it is if it's the 5-speed, but there's a subtle difference here, which I'm going to go through, of why it's a 5-speed, but it has to be reverse down to the right, like that. That is the F23. They do a different one, but they very rarely have them in the diesels. In the reverses over up here above first, they won't find them in a diesel. They're just a petrol. They are actually an alright gearbox, but it's the 6-speed one. The 6-speed gearbox, avoid it. And this is where the difference becomes. On these Astras, after 08, this is 57, but after 08 plate ones, they moved on to what you call, if you look on the back, they'll start calling it an EcoFlex. They don't call it a 1.7 CDTI anymore. They call it, it'll be written here, EcoFlex. Don't go near them. Do not go near them, because there's 2 things that they've done, and they've ruined these cars, and since then I would not recommend another Vauxhall after one of these. This is the very, 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 very last. Number 1, they put a DPF on them. This 1700 diesel engine has been around for 30 or 40 years, and it's been developed and developed and developed, and it did not like getting a DPF fitted. The same as the 1.9 TDI PD, the VW, the VAG engine. That was a fantastic engine until they put the DPFs on, and it ruined them. So do not buy one of these if they're classed as an EcoFlex. The only other way of the engine code you would know is if it's A17 DT whatever. Don't buy them. Don't get them. They are riddled with faults with DPFs. And the second reason is, as standard from 08 onwards, they all come fitted standard, even the vans, with the 6-speed gearbox. That's an M32 Fiat gearbox, and they are one of the worst gearboxes ever built. The diffs blow up on them, the whine, they're awful. So never, ever, ever buy a diesel Astra. For a start with a 1.3, right, actually Astra, this is Safira, Corsa, all the Vauxhall range of this era. 1.3 CDTI, 1.9 CDTI, and on the late, newer stuff, there's the 2-litre CDTI. Don't buy none of that. All rubbish, all Fiat. Go for the 1700. Second of all, if you do buy the 1700 one, whatever car it may be in, make sure it's the 5-speed F23 gearbox, as I've just shown you. Very careful with that one. Do not buy a 1700 CDTI with a 6-speed gearbox, because it's the Fiat M32. So there we go. There's a few little figures why these are so good. I'll open the bonnet. I'll show you a little bit under the bonnet first before we go inside. But obviously my daughter's dying to be out. I've just had her at the park, and I don't think she's too pleased being stuck in the car on such a nice day. So we're getting back. I just wanted to do this because I feel, honestly, I know it's just a chunk of metal, but I feel really bad that I've left this car out. I want to give it a little bit of time on the channel. So there you go. There's your 1700 CDTI. Brilliant engines, absolutely fantastic. They've got a few faults, which I'm going to go through now, but every engine has its faults. They have loads of these little stupid rubber pipes everywhere, and eventually you can see that one's got a tiny little whip, but it's nothing. They do tend to leak there's the silly little pipes, little tiny little pipes all over the place, but once you get around and replace most of them, you don't tend to have too much of an issue. So they're one of the main Achilles heel. Second one, down there, you probably can't see it, is the alternator. It's at the very bottom. Now, the alternator on these are notorious for going wrong, because they've got electronic power steering, which again, here, they can be problematic, the pumps and the steering racks, but they're not bad on the later ones like these. It was the earlier ones, like my silver Astra at work. But anyways, the alternator's packed up because they're running the power steering all the time. But on these, they've got the vacuum pump on the alternator. Normally you have the vacuum pump run off the cam, which you would normally here somewhere, or here if it's chain driven, which these aren't, a belt. So the vacuum pump for your brakes, your servo and whatnot, is on the alternator. Naturally, it's oil fed to lubricate it. So the alternators on these, they're cheap enough now, but back in the day they were expensive. But expect to have to fit an alternator to one of these every sort of 4 or 5 years. Just make sure you get a good quality Bosch one or something, and they're not normally too much bother, but they're a faff to fit, because you've got to disconnect all the oil lines. You can end up, they quite often have bad oil leaks, and it's not even coming from the engine, it's coming from the alternator. The vacuum pump bolted to the back of the alternator, but unfortunately, if the leak's that bad, it's high pressure oil, it can leak all the oil out and knock your engine, all just for the sake of the vacuum pump. So that's something to be aware of. Timing belts, yes, there are timing belts, but they're a really high interval. There's some daft, like 100,000 mile or 10 year. Never do that. Half it, 5 year, 6 year, or every kind of 60, 70,000 mile. Dead easy to do on these. There's no biggie just here. The only thing is the oil pump on these, believe it or not, haven't got a water pump driven off the cam belt. They've got the oil pump, weirdly, and they can sometimes cause issues, but that's only on high mileage, not looked after vehicles. I've personally never come across one, so I wouldn't even say that would be something to look out for. And the other thing is as well, usual EGRs on them, which is this unit just here. It's the pipe which comes down and around under there, that silver pipe. I've blanked it off on this one. You get the odd occasional car with a spanner light coming on, but it's fine. You're better off having them blocked off. But bar that, they don't really have too many problems. But this one's got 100 and something, what is it? 122,000 mile. And I'm not joking you, I've seen these with 300,000 mile. Get a look at these cams. Have a look at that. There's not a... That's actually oil... I don't know how that's been up. It's still got the honing marks on it from when it was made new. I have never in my life ever known an engine like these. Whatever miles they've got on, whether it's 200,000, 300,000... them cams on these just look good as new. You honestly, swear to God, get a petrol Vauxhall and take the oil cap off on it. Oh, actually, there's a wasp. 2 seconds. Sorry about that. A wasp tried to get into the car. My daughter's in the car. So, anyways, what was I on about? Yeah, a petrol. Just get any car where you can take an oil cap off like that and see the cams. And I bet you would get a 30,000 mile petrol or 20,000 mile petrol engine, and they'll be all scored. You would see the marks on them. These engines are fantastic. Even abused ones I've had coming in, and the cams look good as new. Fantastic. Lovely to work on. Lovely. Fantastic. Fuel filter. 1 Torx out. Fuel filter in, done. But make sure you always pre-fill them. Nightmare if you get air in the system. Oil filter, right there. Air filter, right there. Pollen filter behind the glove box, not too bad. Battery access, even better on the Mark IVs here, but this is all covered in. Aircon on them, they're a little bit iffy. The condensers are very weak on them, so that's something you would have to bear in mind with them. Doing the front springs, lovely. Just 2 little clamps here. You just actually pull this plastic stuff apart with your fingers, off the come. 2 bolts on the bottom of the struts. So yeah, the problems are springs. Front spring on one of these you can have off in 20 minutes. Brilliant idea. Drop link, 2 bolts to the hub. Not even no faffing about up here. Back end of them, 5-year-old could work on them. Unbelievably simple. Simply 1 bolt out, bottom of the shocker, pull it down, spring in, put it back up, job done. Back shockers, back springs, dead easy, dead cheap, no bother whatsoever. Front end, again, fantastic. Bottom wishbone arms, you look like you get about 100,000 mile out them from new. Before they start either rusting or the bushes or ball joints start to go. But like I said, for about 70 quid, you can get original Lemforder Vauxhall spec ones, which this has already had both front arms replaced. The usual things, brake discs and pads are cheap enough. The back calipers can get tight. This one needs a new caliper on the other side. Wheel bearings, they can quite often go, but they're a hub, so you just bolt them on, bolt them off, no pressing on. Yeah, they're about 70, 80 quid again, but once they're done, they're finished with. But bar that, they're great. Front subframes used to rust on them, on the Mark IVs where they had the under tray, but Vauxhall recognised there was a problem there, and all of these shaped ones didn't come with the under trays, most of them. So yeah, they don't rust at all underneath, and as you look around the body, there's just no rust whatsoever anywhere. Rear arches, none. I have known some of them where they get abused have a bit of rust, but you know, it's just spot on. They don't rot, and they're such just a nice car to drive, nice car to be in. like I said, this is only like £140 tax. Excuse me voice. £140 tax. You'll easily get, you could push 60 mile per gallon with one of these if you did some hypermiling. Easily. More than that maybe. Unbelievably good on fuel. And I think they actually sound alright as well for a diesel. They're quite refined. It's a 16 valve as well. 16 valve diesel's quite advanced for the time. But yeah, so I'll go into the ones of these. They're a bit meh. Excuse that, they're just a bit meh. They're nothing flashy. You get a 1.4 chain driven one, the engine out the Corsa, flat as a fart, and they are actually quite problematic. 1600s, thirsty, not much power, quite problematic actually. With all the twin port ones are terrible. What else is there? They do an 1800 one, yes, they're okay. That's the sweet spot of the petrol engines for these. But again, you get high tax it into like 250 quid tax if you get an automatic one. 1800 petrol, you're looking at £330, £360 now tax. They do a 2-litre turbo, they're nice for a bit of fun. But remember, if they're newer than an 06, you'll be paying £700, £600 tax on them. They do a 2.2 petrol, avoid, no good. I don't think they did any V6s or anything in them. So yeah, the petrol range of these are a bit there. All of the diesel range are a bit crap, like apart from the 1700 one. So really, this is why this is the creme de la creme. And as you've said, I've done 21 minutes of telling you about these things. I know my stuff with them, and I know where a good car is. So you, a medium, a family estate car that's going to suit you well, and it doesn't look outdated, and I really don't think these do look outdated. Get yourself an Astra Mark 5, Astra H as they're known as, 1700, before 2008, 100 brake horsepower, 5-speed F23 gearbox, definitely in estate form, design or elite, mint. And I've already said to my partner, once you fancy a new car, I'll have this offer straight away as my daily driver, something economical. And do you know what it is? She's had this, it's got to be 3 years maybe now, and she loves it. She really does like it. It just does everything we need it to do. I mean, crikey, it's just such a good car. I mean, I'll show you in the back. It's just got the child seat and my daughter in. Loads of space in the back for the kids, 2 seats. Obviously, all the seats are, you know, being the design, you've got the lighting in the rear. These are things that you remember you don't get. Rear electric windows. We fit the Team Hecko to it. And we'll jump inside. If excuse me daughter, because she not understand what I'm doing. So we'll get in. I'll show you what's going on in here. So like I've said, front electric heated mirrors, 4 electric windows, all the leather trim, the stainless steel look, which, like, let's face it here, it's kept very well. Front and rear fog lights, automatic lights, all the relevant adjustments. You've got obviously your rain sensing wipers, light sensing lights, which is up here. You've got your automatic dip dim mirror with ambient lighting under here, which is nice at night time because it lights the whole thing up. And there's little lights under here, under these handles, and it lights all the doors up in orange. Like I've said, the only thing it really hasn't got is full leather, heated seats, and there's meant to be a sport button here on the SRIs, but you can actually retrofit the sport button. It just gives you an extra like 20 brake horsepower when you want it, but you don't even get that on the Elite actually. It's only the SRI, but then when you get the SRI, you don't actually get none of the nice spec. But I think it's really nice, the piano black, chrome across there. This is only on the design and the Elite, really quality looking interior, I think, which has stood the test of time. It's got an aftermarket alarm, which Vauxhall fitted to all the models, which is really good. It's like a proper top-end, like, Cobra alarm. It's all fit. There's no separate remote or nothing. It's all directly linked in with the Vauxhall system. You've even got the auxiliary input, which I've been using now on my phone. Obviously, you've got the full display on here. In fact, let's have a look. I've been blasting this thing round the last few weeks, round the doors, and I bet you're still getting more than 50 to the gallon. Let's have a look. There, 51.4 miles to the gallon. Brilliant. And it's got the dual screen one, where it's three levels to it. Aircon, nice simple system on these. Easy to use. I just don't like the fact they're right down here. The only other common thing with these is this area gets a bit tatty. I had to put some tape on it. The ashtray drops down inside. I've got a new one, but it's not the piano black, it's silver. So I'm going to try and find a way of repairing that. And like I said, the only thing this didn't have was the cruise control, but with these Vauxhalls, they're so easy. This stalk actually just pulls out, I'm not joking, in your hand, buy a genuine Vauxhall one for 30-40 quid with the buttons on, pop it in, stick the Tech 2 on it, activate it on the dashboard so you get the little green light coming on. The SIM module, which is this area, to activate it on the engine ECU, job done. One of the best ideas I've ever done on these, and these cruise control systems work great. But yeah, you get all the nice spec with these. You know, you get the lights in the mirrors, both mirrors. Like I could do my car reviews that you'll have seen, all the good stuff in here. So yeah, I'll leave that one there. I know it went on to 25 minutes, but I felt bad on this car. It doesn't get no press on the channel. I wanted just to do a shout out of how good these things are. If you're after a medium-sized family vehicle, buy a Mark 5 Astra Estate, or even if you want older stuff, if you like the older stuff, get a Mark 4 Astra Estate. Them ones that have the even more reliable than this. A little bit of more work to bore you on the Isuzu engine. This is the common rail version, the 16 valve. Before this, in the Astra, the shape of my old one, the Mark 4, they did bring out on the last few models of them the 1700 CDTI, but they were only made in the 80 brake horsepower. But the majority of the Astra Gs had the 1700 DTI, which was the Y17 DT. I'm not quite sure on the power of those, but they aren't common rail. They've just got an electronic rotary pump. They are the best. They're not as refined as these, not as powerful, but my God, they are super reliable. And they're not old clattery engines either. They're actually quieter than the common rail ones. So yeah, the 17 DTIs are a fantastic engine. They'll run on anything as well. They're great. They're just it's just kind of one of those engines that run forever. My combo van had that engine in, and my Astra van, and honestly, my Astra van had about 300,000 on, and it just ran like a sewing machine. Definitely they are to go for as well. But yeah, just to sum it up, if you probably pick these up cheap now, get yourself a Mark 5 Astra Estate with the 1700 CDTI, or even go for the older Mark 4, the Astra G with the 17 DTI in estate form again. And these are a fantastic car. I can 100% guarantee won't give you too much of a headache. So we'll leave that one there. I just had to put this one in. Cracking car. Thanks for watching. Please, if you enjoyed this, hit the like. Leave a comment if you've got anything you want to say or ask. If you haven't already done so, hit the subscribe. Thanks for watching. Bye.